At the holiday dinner, beneath warm lights and the clink of glasses, HR smiled and asked how I was enjoying my new contract. My stomach dropped. I didn't have a new contract. The look on her face said she suddenly knew that too. The holiday dinner was supposed to be easy. That was the whole point. One evening of polite conversations, sparkling decorations, and forgettable speeches before everyone disappeared for the holidays. The hotel ballroom glowed with amber light reflected from crystal chandeliers. Somewhere near the stage, a jazz trio drifted through soft instrumentals that seemed designed to smooth over every awkward silence. For most people, it worked. For me, it didn't. I stood near the dessert table holding a glass of sparkling water I hadn't touched in 20 minutes. Around me, coworkers laughed louder than usual, relieved to be away from spreadsheets, deadlines, and conference calls. I should have been enjoying myself, too. After all, according to my manager, everything was moving forward. Slowly, painfully, but forward. For nearly 2 months, I'd been asking about my promotion. Every week, the same answer. We're almost there. The paperwork is still being processed. Corporate needs another approval. These things take time. The explanations changed slightly, but the melody remained the same. Just enough hope to keep me waiting. Just enough delay to prevent me from asking harder questions. At first, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? My performance reviews had been excellent. I'd led projects that generated record revenue. Clients specifically requested to work with me. Even senior leadership had congratulated me after a successful product launch. The promotion seemed inevitable. The timing was the only mystery. And then, strange things started happening. Little things, the kind that barely register at first. A meeting invitation appeared on my calendar and vanished an hour later. An executive I'd never spoken to suddenly knew my name. Someone from payroll emailed me by mistake, then recalled the message within minutes. Each event felt insignificant on its own. Together, they created a faint static in the back of my mind. A signal buried beneath the noise. I couldn't quite understand it. Not yet. Alex. I turned. My manager, Daniel, approached with his usual polished smile. Everything about Daniel looked carefully engineered. Perfect tie, perfect haircut, perfect confidence. Even his smile seemed rehearsed. "Enjoying the evening?" he asked. "Trying to." "You should relax." "I'll relax when this promotion finally gets approved." A brief shadow crossed his face, gone almost immediately. So impatient. "It's been 8 weeks. Believe me," he said. "I'm pushing for you." The answer arrived too quickly, as though he'd delivered it many times before. Maybe he had. Behind him, someone called his name. For a fraction of a second, I noticed something odd. Relief. Not annoyance, not distraction. Relief, as if he was grateful to escape the conversation. Then, the moment vanished. Daniel waved and walked away. The jazz music continued. Glasses clinked. Laughter echoed beneath the chandeliers. Yet, a strange feeling settled into my chest, like watching a beautiful painting and suddenly noticing a crack beneath the surface. Small, impossible to ignore once seen. I spent the next hour drifting through conversations I barely heard. Every now and then, my eyes found Daniel. He seemed unusually busy, constantly moving, talking to directors, talking to executives, talking to people who rarely attended these events. At one point, he noticed me watching. He immediately looked away. The reaction lasted less than a second, but it felt wrong, and the feeling stayed with me. Then came the moment that changed everything. I was standing near the coffee station when a woman from HR approached. Sophia. We'd spoken a handful of times over the years. She was sharp, professional, and unusually direct, the kind of person who rarely wasted words. "Alex," she said warmly. "Good to see you. You too." We exchanged the usual holiday small talk, Family, travel plans, the weather. Then she smiled. A completely normal smile, the kind that destroys your world without warning. "So," she said, lifting her coffee cup, "how are you liking your new contract?" The room seemed to tilt. The music faded. Even the voices around us felt distant. "My what?" Her smile froze. Not gradually, instantly, like a switch being flipped. "Your new contract." I stared at her. She stared at me. Neither of us moved. The silence between us expanded. Heavy, impossible. Sophia blinked. "Wait." A single word, barely audible. The color drained from her face, and suddenly I understood something terrifying. She hadn't made a mistake. The smile disappeared from Sophia's face so quickly it felt unnatural, not awkward, not embarrassed, alarmed. Around us, the holiday dinner continued as if nothing had happened. A burst of laughter erupted near the bar. Someone dropped a fork. The jazz trio shifted into a brighter tune. But inside the small circle of silence surrounding us, the air had changed. I set my glass down before I accidentally dropped it. "What contract?" I asked. Sophia didn't answer immediately. That frightened me more than any answer could have. She looked past my shoulder, toward the crowded room, toward the executives gathered near the stage, and then toward Daniel. My manager was laughing with 2 vice presidents. The moment her eyes landed on him, something tightened in her expression. A warning light behind her eyes. When she looked back at me, her voice was lower. "You haven't signed anything?" "No." "Nobody contacted you?" "No." Her fingers tightened around her coffee cup. For a second, she seemed to be calculating something. Numbers, dates, consequences. I suddenly felt as though I'd stepped into the middle of a conversation that had started months ago without me. "What is going on?" I asked. Sophia opened her mouth, closed it again. The hesitation was brief, but devastating. People hesitate when they're choosing words. People hesitate when the truth is dangerous. Finally, she said, "Maybe we should talk after the event." After the event. Not now, not here. The answer sent a chill down my spine, because it confirmed something I hadn't wanted to believe. There was something to talk about, something real, something hidden. And somehow, I was the last person who knew. A waiter passed between us, carrying a tray of champagne flutes. For a moment, the interruption broke the tension. Then Sophia glanced over my shoulder again. This time, her expression changed completely. Professional. Neutral. Guarded. I turned. Daniel was walking toward us. My pulse jumped. He wasn't rushing. That was the strange part. He moved with the calm confidence of someone entering a room he already controlled. "Everything okay?" he asked pleasantly. The question floated between us. Sophia answered before I could. "Of course." Too fast. Much too fast. Daniel smiled. His gaze shifted to me, then back to Sophia. Something silent passed between them. Not a look, not exactly. More like recognition. Like 2 people suddenly realizing they possessed different pieces of the same secret. The moment lasted less than a second. Then it was gone. "Good," Daniel said. His smile remained. His eyes did not. "We wouldn't want anyone worrying about work tonight." The sentence sounded harmless, yet something underneath it felt sharp, deliberate, as if the real message existed beneath the words. Sophia nodded. "I completely agree." Another strange silence. Then Daniel lightly touched my shoulder. The gesture should have felt supportive. Instead, it felt like a hand checking whether a door was still locked. "We'll talk after the holidays," he said. The same phrase he'd used for weeks. The same delay. The same promise. But now it sounded different. Now it sounded like strategy. He walked away. Neither of us spoke until he disappeared into the crowd. Only then did Sophia exhale. A real exhale. The kind people release after danger passes, or after they think it has. What aren't you telling me? I asked quietly. She looked genuinely conflicted. That scared me even more, because Sophia wasn't protecting herself. She was protecting something else, or someone else. I need to check something first. What? I just do. The answer frustrated me, but her expression stopped me from pushing harder. She looked shaken, deeply shaken, as if she'd discovered an error that should not have been possible. A mistake hidden inside a system designed to prevent mistakes. Then her phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen and froze. Not dramatically, not visibly enough for most people to notice. But I noticed, because I was already watching. Her eyes moved across whatever message had appeared. Once, twice, a third time. Then she locked the screen immediately. Too quickly. What was that? I asked. Nothing. A terrible answer. Everyone knows it. She knew it too. For a moment, I thought she might tell me. Instead, she looked toward the ballroom entrance, toward the elevators, toward the dark hallway beyond the celebration, and her voice dropped almost to a whisper. Alex. Yeah? If anyone contacts you about paperwork... She stopped. The unfinished sentence hung between us. If anyone contacts me? She swallowed. Don't sign anything until we talk. The room suddenly felt colder, not physically, emotionally, like a draft moving through a house where all the windows are closed. Before I could ask another question, someone called Sophia's name from across the room. An HR director. She flinched. Actually flinched, then quickly recovered. I have to go. Sophia. Tomorrow. Tomorrow when? But she was already moving, disappearing into the crowd, leaving me alone beside the coffee station, alone with a warning, alone with questions, and alone with the growing certainty that my promotion wasn't delayed at all. Somewhere across the ballroom, Daniel raised a glass during a toast. People applauded. The chandeliers shimmered. Music swelled. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that an invisible clock had just started ticking, because whatever Sophia had seen on her phone had frightened her. And whatever she knew about my so-called contract had frightened her even more. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't worried about missing a promotion. I was worried about why someone wanted me to believe I had. If this moment made your stomach tighten the way it did mine, stay with the story. Sometimes the smallest unanswered question opens the biggest door, and the truth is, often waiting on the other side. The next morning arrived wrapped in gray winter light. The city outside my apartment looked muted, as though someone had turned down the color saturation overnight. Snow rested on rooftops and parked cars in thin, uneven layers. The streets glistened beneath a sky the color of cold steel. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sophia's expression. Not surprise, not confusion, fear. The memory followed me into the kitchen while coffee brewed. It sat beside me while I checked my phone. And it remained there when I discovered she hadn't answered my message. No reply, no explanation, nothing. I stared at the screen, then checked again 20 minutes later. Still nothing. By noon, the silence felt wrong. By 2 o'clock, it felt deliberate. And by 3, I was driving toward the office. The building was nearly empty. Most employees had already started their holiday break. The parking garage echoed with hollow, metallic sounds as I stepped from the elevator. The usual energy was gone. No conversations, no ringing phones. No hurried footsteps, just silence. Corporate silence. The kind that makes every door seem more important. My badge granted access to the main floor. The reception area sat abandoned beneath soft, overhead lighting. Decorations remained from the holiday party. A wreath, silver garlands, a tree covered in tiny white lights. The cheerful display felt strangely unsettling in an empty office, like laughter lingering in an abandoned theater. I walked toward HR. Sophia's office stood near the corner windows overlooking downtown. The blinds were closed, the lights were off, and taped neatly to the door was a printed notice. Out of office. The words hit harder than they should have. I read them twice, then 3 times. There was no return date, no contact information, nothing. Just those 3 words. Out of office. The timing felt impossible. Yesterday, she looked terrified. Today, she was gone. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. I was about to leave when I heard footsteps. Someone approaching from behind. I turned. A man from facilities pushed a maintenance cart down the hallway. Middle-aged, friendly face, someone I'd occasionally chatted with near the elevators. He nodded toward Sophia's office. Looking for her? Yeah. His expression shifted, a tiny movement, easy to miss. Bad timing. What do you mean? He glanced around before answering. The hallway was empty. She left early. When? Yesterday. The answer stopped me. After the party? Pretty much. My pulse quickened. Did she say where she was going? No? He hesitated, then added something unexpected. She seemed upset. The words landed heavily, because they confirmed I hadn't imagined anything. What kind of upset? He scratched his chin. Thinking? Honestly? Yeah. She looked like somebody who just learned something they weren't supposed to know. The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then the man shrugged. Anyway. He continued down the corridor, leaving me frozen outside the dark office. Someone who'd learned something they weren't supposed to know. The description fit too well. Far too well. I pulled out my phone. Still no response from Sophia. I considered calling. Before I could decide, another thought surfaced. Payroll. The recalled email. The mistake. Months earlier, I'd dismissed it. Now it felt important. Very important. I headed toward my desk. Most of the floor sat empty. Computer monitors slept in darkness. Rows of workstations stretched beneath dim afternoon light. Outside the windows, snowflakes drifted slowly between skyscrapers. I sat down and opened my inbox. Finding the recalled message took longer than expected. But eventually, I located the notification. Message recalled by sender. No subject line remained, no content, only a timestamp. I stared at it. Something felt familiar. Then I noticed the date. The email had arrived the same morning Daniel first told me my promotion was being delayed. The exact same day. A coincidence? Maybe, except it no longer felt like one. I opened my calendar, then my archived emails, then old meeting invitations. One by one. Slowly. Methodically. A pattern began emerging. Tiny inconsistencies. Tiny anomalies. Individually meaningless. Together. Unsettling. Meetings added and removed. Approvals referenced but never documented. Conversations that seemed strangely vague in retrospect. Every thread led back to the same period. The same week, the same decision point. The same supposed delay. Outside, daylight faded. Office windows transformed into dark mirrors. My reflection stared back at me. Tired. Focused. Uneasy. Then something happened. Something small. Something that changed everything. An email appeared in my inbox. New message. No subject. No greeting. No signature. Just a single attachment. My heartbeat accelerated immediately. The sender's address was hidden behind an internal routing system. No recognizable name. No explanation. Nothing. I looked around the empty office. Ridiculous, but instinctive, as though someone might be watching. The attachment contained only one file, a PDF. The file name was short. 3 words, not a sentence, not a report title, just 3 words. Promotion_final_approved. I stared at the screen. The office seemed to grow quieter. The lights seemed dimmer. My pulse hammered in my ears. Because according to Daniel, my promotion was still waiting for approval, but according to the file sitting in my inbox, someone wanted me to see something very different. For several seconds, I didn't move. The cursor hovered over the attachment. The office remained silent. Outside the windows, evening had swallowed the city. Snow drifted through the glow of streetlights far below, moving slowly like ash suspended in water. Promotion_final_approved. 3 words. Simple. Ordinary. Potentially explosive. A strange instinct told me not to open it. Not yet. As if the moment before the truth carried its own kind of safety. The moment you still have questions. The moment before answers begin changing things. My phone buzzed. I nearly jumped. A message. Unknown number. No name attached. No introduction. Just 5 words. Check the signature page first. I stared at the screen. The timing was impossible. Whoever sent the file knew I had received it, or expected I would. A chill traveled down my back. The office suddenly felt less empty. I stood and looked across the floor. Rows of vacant desks, dark monitors, reflections in glass. Nothing unusual. Yet the feeling remained. The unmistakable sensation of stepping into a game whose rules everyone else already understood. Slowly, I sat back down, then opened the PDF. The first page appeared. Company letterhead, official formatting, executive approval documentation. Everything looked legitimate, painfully legitimate. I scrolled. The document outlined a promotion exactly as I had expected. New title, expanded responsibilities, salary increase, effective date. My eyes stopped. Effective date. I read it once, then again, then a third time. The effective date was nearly 7 weeks old. 7 weeks. The promotion had supposedly taken effect almost 2 months earlier. My mouth went dry. Daniel's voice echoed in my memory. Still waiting for approval. Corporate is reviewing it. We're almost there. Each explanation collapsed like rotten wood beneath pressure. I scrolled faster, page after page. Approvals, department confirmations, budget authorization. Everything appeared completed. Everything. No delays, no pending signatures, no missing approvals. Nothing. The promotion had been approved. Fully approved. Long ago. The realization hit with physical force. I leaned back in my chair. The ceiling lights blurred for a moment. Because if the promotion wasn't delayed, then the delays themselves had been intentional. And that raised a far more dangerous question. Why? The answer wasn't on the first pages, but maybe it was somewhere else. I remembered the anonymous text. Check the signature page first. Not the first page. The signature page. I jumped to the end. Several executive signatures filled the final section. Department heads. Finance. Operations. Human resources. My eyes moved across the names. Then stopped. Everything inside me froze. Sophia's name appeared among the signatures, but the signature itself looked wrong. Not obviously fake, not dramatically different. Just off. I had seen Sophia sign documents before. Internal acknowledgments, training records, compliance forms, enough times to recognize certain habits. The sharp angle at the end, the looping first letter, the slight upward stroke. This signature lacked all of them. A small detail, yet impossible to ignore once noticed. I zoomed in. The signature remained strange, mechanical, careful, as though someone had copied the appearance without capturing the motion. A knock echoed somewhere down the hallway. I flinched. My heart pounded. The sound didn't repeat. Probably maintenance. Probably nothing. Still, I found myself lowering the brightness of my monitor. Instinct again. The kind that appears when certainty begins to crack. I continued reading. Near the bottom sat metadata information automatically generated by the company's document management system. Normally, I would never have looked at it. Tonight I did. Creation date, modification date, approval sequence. My eyes narrowed. One timestamp didn't fit. Every executive approval had been recorded over 3 business days, except one, Sophia's. According to the log, her approval occurred at 2:17 a.m. I checked again. Same result, 2:17 a.m., a Saturday. The office wasn't even open. No HR director was processing promotion paperwork in the middle of the night, not voluntarily. A pulse of adrenaline rushed through me, because now there weren't just questions. There were inconsistencies. Real ones, documented ones. The kind auditors noticed, the kind lawyers noticed, the kind people tried very hard to hide. Then another message arrived. The same unknown number. This time, there were only 4 words. Look at page 9. I stared at the text. The sender knew exactly what was inside the document. Maybe they had sent it. Maybe they had created it. Maybe they were watching me work through it step by step. The thought should have sounded paranoid. Instead, it felt logical. I opened page 9. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. Tables, compensation figures, department allocations, budget codes. Then I saw it, a small notation buried in the corner. Easy to miss, easy to overlook. A reference number connected to another internal document. One document linked to another. Routine corporate procedure. Except for one detail. The reference wasn't attached to a promotion file. It pointed to something else entirely. A personnel reassignment record. I felt the blood drain from my face. Promotion paperwork didn't reference personnel reassignments. They weren't supposed to. Different departments, different workflows, different purposes. Yet, there it was. Connected, hidden in plain sight. Someone had buried a trail, and someone else clearly wanted me to find it. Outside, snow continued falling through the darkness. Inside, the office felt colder with every passing minute. I looked at the mysterious reference number, then at the anonymous messages, then back at the document. And for the first time, I realized something even more disturbing than the lies. This wasn't an accident. Someone had been leaving breadcrumbs. Carefully, deliberately, leading me toward something. The only question was whether they were trying to help me or lure me somewhere I was never supposed to go. The reference number sat in the corner of page 9 like a crack in a wall. Tiny, easy to miss, impossible to ignore once discovered. I copied it into the company's document search system. For a moment, nothing happened. A loading icon spun. The office ventilation hummed softly overhead. Snow tapped against the distant windows. Then, the result appeared. One file, restricted access, personnel, reassignment record. My stomach tightened. The title alone felt wrong. Promotions elevated people. Reassignments moved them. The two processes rarely intersected, yet somehow they had intersected here. I clicked. Access denied. No surprise, I tried again. Same result. Then my phone vibrated. The unknown sender. Another message. Use the archive search. I stared at it. No greeting, no explanation, just instructions. A strange realization hit me. Whoever this person was, they weren't asking questions. They already knew what I would find. They were guiding me, step by step. Like someone walking another person through a dark building, they couldn't safely enter themselves. I opened the archive system. Almost nobody used it. Old records, historical documents, retired workflows, corporate archaeology. The kind of place forgotten information went to sleep. I entered the reference number. The search returned a result immediately. This time, the file opened, and suddenly, the room felt very quiet. The reassignment record belonged to me. My name sat at the top of the page. My employee ID, my department, my photograph. For several seconds, I simply stared. My brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing, because I had never been reassigned. Nobody had informed me. Nobody had discussed it. Nobody had asked. Yet, according to the document, I had officially transferred into a different reporting structure nearly 2 months ago. The same week my promotion had supposedly been delayed. The same week the recalled payroll email had arrived. The same week everything started. My pulse thundered. I scrolled further. A list of authorizations appeared, names, dates, approvals. And then one line caught my attention. Current manager assignment. I expected Daniel's name. Instead, I saw someone else's, someone I had never met, someone from a division located 3 states away. I blinked, read it again, still there. The company system believed I worked for a completely different manager. A manager who had never contacted me, never introduced himself, never assigned me work, never appeared in my life at all. The absurdity of it should have been funny. Instead, it was terrifying. Because systems don't accidentally invent reporting structures. Someone had changed mine and hidden it. I kept scrolling. Near the bottom sat an internal note. Short, administrative, the kind employees were never expected to read. But I read it. 3 times. Employee notification pending. Pending. Not completed. Not declined. Pending. The company itself knew I had never been informed. A cold wave moved through me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. The absence of communication had been recorded, tracked, acknowledged. Someone knew. Someone had always known. My phone rang, not a message this time, an actual call, unknown number, the same source. I hesitated, then answered, "Hello." Silence, a faint crackle, background noise, then breathing. Someone was there, listening. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, a woman's voice emerged. Quiet, tense, familiar. "Alex." I sat upright instantly. "Sophia?" Another brief silence. "Don't say my name." The response arrived so quickly it sounded rehearsed. My heart accelerated. "Where are you?" "I can't explain much." "You disappeared." "I know." Her voice sounded exhausted, not physically tired, drained, like someone carrying a weight that had become impossible to hide. I stood and moved toward the dark conference rooms overlooking the city, instinctively seeking privacy. "What is happening?" I asked. The line crackled again. Then came a long exhale. "The promotion was approved." "I know." Another pause. "You found the reassignment record." Not a question, a statement. She already knew. Of course she did. "Who sent me the file?" "I can't answer that." "Why was I reassigned?" Silence. Longer this time. The kind that makes every second feel stretched. Finally, she spoke. Carefully. Choosing every word. "Because the promotion wasn't the real decision." The sentence landed like ice water. Outside, snow drifted through the darkness. Below, traffic lights glowed red and white across the city streets. Everything looked normal. Nothing was normal. "What does that mean?" Sophia didn't answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice had changed. Lower, more serious, almost fearful. "It means somebody changed your position on paper without changing it in reality." I gripped the phone tighter. "Why?" Another silence, then a sound in the background. A door closing. Sophia inhaled sharply, as though she had heard something alarming. "Listen to me carefully." Every nerve in my body tightened. "You need to stop accessing company records tonight." "What?" "You need to leave. Sophia, now." The urgency in her voice was unmistakable, real, immediate. My eyes moved across the empty office, the deserted desks, the dark hallways, the reflections in the glass. Suddenly, the building no longer felt abandoned. It felt watched. "What aren't you telling me?" For a moment, I thought the call had disconnected. Then, she whispered something, so quietly I almost missed it. "They know someone's helping you." The words hit like a physical blow. A pulse of fear surged through me. Who knows? But Sophia never answered. Because at that exact moment, a notification appeared on my computer screen. A new system alert. Automatic, corporate generated. The subject line contained only 6 words. Unauthorized access activity detected. And beneath it, one detail made my blood run cold. The alert had been sent less than 30 seconds ago, which meant someone was watching right now.